can't touch the wares. I think they said last week they couldn't do it around this time because that was the time where things start really hopping.
Oh yeah, because it's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But for some reason he could make it today.
Cool.
All right. All right. I think I'm ready. All right. Let's go 3, 2, and 1. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean. We've got a couple of interviews today. We're going to start with an interview with a local establishment down in Georgia.
Yeah.
Tried to get them on last week to talk about packaging, marketing, branding for beer companies, but couldn't make it last week. So we're going to do an interview with the co-founder. He's going to be joining us here shortly. And
this is like a full service brewery, food, the whole bit. I was looking at their website and I was like, dang, I'm hungry now. So we'll be, that'll be fun. And like you said this is the time of week that they're firing up for their weekend. So
yeah,
we're lucky to have them on. So excited to hear about that. But while we're waiting for them, I guess you and I can talk some beverages.
Yeah, we can. I was really anticipating this today because we ordered from a company we talked about last week, Rivalry Brews. So we placed an order, I think almost everything identical, so we could have some similar brews going.
Yeah.
And mine came in a couple of days ago, but yours has been held up.
Mine is in Fort Worth somewhere in a warehouse. Is the last dot on the update map.
Yeah,
because of the ice that we've had the last 2 days. I mean, it's all cleared off now, but
sure,
as it does in the South, clears up after 2 days. But it did stop all deliveries for like 2 days. So we're about now. Probably won't get it till Monday. So I had to make a quick run out to the HEB, grab some beverages. But I think I got some good ones.
Okay, all right.
So I guess I'll jump in.
Yeah,
so I've got one from the Texas Beer Company.
Mm-hmm.
And it is called the King Grackle Stout. Now, if you're not familiar, it's actually a stout ale.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar with the grackle, it's a blackbird that like makes all kinds of ruckus in the trees, and like I guess a lot of birds make. It's just a noisy, annoying bird. It's pretty popular here in Texas.
It's an annoying name.
Yeah,
I don't even like that. As I say, grackle, that's annoying.
Looks a lot like a crow. It's just an annoying bird. So I'm not sure why you name your beer after a grackle, except that they do kind of run.
Yeah.
Wherever they're at, they kind of run it. So anyway, this is a full-bodied stout that flies boldly above the flock. It has rich, smooth finish with notes of chocolate and coffee. Cheers, y'all.
Oh, nice.
This is from Texas Beer Company.
All right.
Actually reminds me a lot of our guests, like the simple logo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, that. It's a beer company in Texas. We'll just call it the Texas Beer Company. Like that just...
Why not?
Yeah, seems to work.
Put the logo. I mean, that's synonymous right there. That big old state logo.
Yeah.
7.5.
Yeah, that'll be the strongest one I've had since the new year. So
good.
Yeah, so back in the saddle.
All right. So I've got I'm bringing on a goggle fogger. This is a Hefeweizen.
That'll get you an E rating right there, just saying it.
German style Hefeweizen. Talk about a little packaging there. And I have to admit, Sean, I did snag this out of the pack because this is one that you did not order. So I added it in, and I'm glad I did. So I just pulled this one out.
Yeah. Well, here's mine. Nice and dark.
Man, nice and dark. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is I don't have too many Hefeweizens. Used to when I lived there in Germany, but not as much anymore. But this is a 5.5 ABV, 12 IBUs. So
yeah, I see our guest is in the green room and it's sipping on a beer, so we should probably find out what he's drinking as well.
If that's the case, we gotta bring him in then.
It looked like a nice dark beer, so I'm excited to bring him in.
All right, let's see here.
Oh,
Nick,
there it is.
So we have, just to remind our guests or remind our audience, we have Nick Purdy. He is the co-founder of Wild Heaven Beers. I want to say brewery, but it's Wild Heaven Beers. And happy to have him on. Let's see here. Hey, Nick. Thanks for joining us, man. Glad to have you on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. We saw, Sean pointed out you had a beer. So normally I forgot to ask if you would have a brew joining us. Look at that thing, man.
I mean, it's awesome. Pretty late on a Friday, which we call happiest hour. And
that's right.
So of course I'm having a beer. This is our release that we're doing today called Beach Bonfire.
Oh, and, nice.
It's a porter, which, by the way, we're in our 12th year, and this is the second porter we've ever made. And the first one was only a few months ago. We just never did porters. And this one, we actually took some malted barley, sent it with our sales guy from Atlanta down to the Georgia coast to St. Simon's Island to our friends at this amazing barbecue restaurant called Southern Soul, who we've done beer dinners with for years and years. Left the grain with them. They put it on their smoker where they do all their barbecue and brisket and everything. And then we sent our guy back a few weeks later, picked up that smoked malt, brought it back to Decatur, where we are in Atlanta. Man. And we brewed the smoked porter. And so since they're down there on the coast, we called it Beach Bonfire.
Beautiful. That is awesome. That is putting the craft in craft beer right there.
And it really is.
That is cool.
Hey, is these lights behind me like terrible? I can turn them off. I don't know.
No, it's fine. No,
I can't tell what looks good on these.
As long as you can hear, as long as the audio is good, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Where are you guys at?
Sean's in Austin, and I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Two terrific towns. I'll be in Austin in March for South by Southwest.
Oh yeah, firing back up. That's good to hear.
Back up.
That all the restaurants fantastic. Happy to hear that's happening this year.
Indeed.
So that's a big chunk of the revenue every year, hotels and everything. So yeah, we're 2 years without it. It's like a different town. So
we're coming back.
All right.
Awesome.
Love it.
So what do you guys mostly do? What do you focus on? Mostly IPAs or?
I would not call us an IPA centric brewery. We actually started kind of with more of a Belgian roots in a way. When we first launched in 2010, we launched with 2 high gravity beers.
Okay.
One was a Belgian strong golden ale, but made with no candy sugar, so an all malt, which is pretty unusual at 8.5%. And then we also did my partner Eric was like, "Hey, let's do a brown ale. Yeah, let's see if we can find Invocation as you scroll there."
I've had that emergency. I've had
that's our flagship.
That's such a great.
You scroll a little far. Yeah, so the girl, the blonde-haired girl there, that's Invocation. So that was our first beer, and that's why it's called Invocation. It was the first. It was the beginning. And so Eric, my partner, had a lot of travel in Europe and is kind of a mad scientist, and he's our brewmaster. And he's like, "I don't want to use adjunct sugars if we can avoid it." And I said, "Well, why is that?" And this is where the science nerd kind of took off. He goes, "Well, let me explain something to you. The alcohol that you drink that's malted out of grain has a certain molecular structure. Alcohol that comes from sugar, like even candy sugar, as elegant as that is for your Belgian beers," he goes, "it's a different molecular structure. It has fusel oils in it, and it's why you get a headache along with your hangover." So maybe you've had certain beers that are higher in sugar content, and you're not just gonna get drunk. You're gonna have that feeling the next day, and
like red wine.
I was gonna say, it explains the red wine headache in the morning.
Absolutely, it's similar to that. And so he said, "I want us to make our Belgian beers without the candy sugar." And the disadvantage is the candy sugar gives you a lovely lighter mouthfeel, but it's just going to hammer you a little bit more. So in fact, I even pulled the can for you guys. We make a Belgian quadruple. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at this. Eschaton. And this is a 10.5% quad. And it's, to our knowledge, the only one in the world made with no candy sugar. We were able to get that Belgian quad yeast to ferment out a 10.5% beer, which is really difficult to do. Back when we were the approximately 1400th brewery to have a license in the United States, there's now close to 10,000. This, for a time on Beer Advocate, was the #1 rated U.S. Belgian style quadruple.
Wow.
Yeah,
so Sean and
like
we're going to send you our address so you can send us some. We'll be the judge of that because we rate beers on the show.
This year's batch is very good, very good. It used to be a regular beer. Now we make it most every year, one batch. Last year we didn't make it during COVID, but we also had saved some extra from the year before and put it in some bourbon barrels. So last year we did a BBA version.
Nice, very nice,
cool, nice.
All right, well, I want to drink mine, so let's do our
cheers.
Yeah,
we got to do our cheers.
What do you guys got?
I have one from Texas Beer Company called the King Grackle Stout. So a local brew here. It's actually up in McKinney, Texas, near Dallas. I think's where they're from. I've had quite a few of theirs. So it says a stout ale, but awfully dark. I guess it's not black. It's got a little amber to it, but not much. So we'll find out. I've never had this one before. So
I've got a Hefeweizen. It's a Gogelfager.
All right. Well, cheers.
If you say so.
Cheers.
Jonathan, you putting that in a glass? Are we going to get to look at it?
Yeah, right here.
Oh,
it's a little light. It's a little light for my tasting. I told Sean it's been quite some time. It's been a while since I've had a Hefeweizen. I used to drink these. I lived in Germany for a while, many moons ago, and I used to drink a Hefeweizen all the time. But I've since gravitated more towards darker beers. So
it's because you're getting old.
I gravitate very luckily as a brewery owner toward all the beers.
All the beers.
Probably good for business.
Yeah, whatever our release is that week, and we do something almost every week, that's what I'm drinking. Happy to have whatever it is.
So we give a rating. I think your rating is going to be a little biased there, Nick. So I don't know. We'll still take it, but we do a scale of 1 to 5 pints. And from your honest assessment of
decimals are welcome. So go as many decimal places as you need.
Sure.
You give us your take on this one, the Eschaton.
Which one are you having?
Well, I'm having the Beach Bonfire, which
that's right. The Beach Bonfire.
I did not bring that can in with me. The label is cool, but it's basically an illustration of a campfire. It's not anyway.
The Beach Bonfire. Give us a 1 to 5 pint rating.
So I'm going to give it a 4. And the reason I'm going to give it a 4 is that I wish the smoke was a little bit more prominent than it turned out to be.
Okay.
I think as a porter goes, it's on point. It's got that, when you drink a porter, it's because you don't want to drink a stout right that moment.
Yeah.
You kind of want that vibe. You want the dark roastiness. You want something that's not really all about hops and crispness. You want something a little more, cool weathery, whatever.
Yeah.
But an imperial stout might feel like a little much in the moment for whatever reason. So a porter kind of is that's why I think we haven't made many, guys.
Right.
A porter to us always felt like a compromise.
Yeah.
Like we're stopping short of where we really want to be.
Sure.
And so we haven't made many, but it has a place for damn sure. So I'm going to drink a bunch of this tonight. I'll probably have 4 of these. Every Friday in our tap room, we have a thing we call happiest hour. And every day's got a happy hour in it. But Friday, you've done the work. You've earned your weekend. It's not about staying out and getting crazy on a Friday night. It's taking an hour or 2 at the end of the week, trying to stop, get into a moment of actual gratitude, of being thankful for the work you've got to do, the friends that you have.
Sure.
And so a bunch of our friends and a lot of our customers, they try to come out on Friday. We'll put a band on tonight. We've got a campfire going and all that kind of stuff. And so when we opened our second brewery a couple years ago, Sarah Young, who's our EVP, she asked me, she said, hey, we need a name for kind of all the beers that come from the small batch brewery at our new place. And she said, can we use your your happiest hour idea? And so, shit, I'm terrible. How do I do that?
StreamYard's a little backwards.
There we go.
Feels like it should be on the left. It's opposite.
So you can see that, right? So all of our beers that come from our second brewery, which is a smaller system, they're called Happiest Hour, and it's our exploration project. So these are all mostly one-offs. And so that's what Friday is. God. So this is last
Russian
week's
to me.
beer. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Look at that amazing name. You get it?
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love
that
that.
beer. That one was a 5 out of 5, by the way. In fact, if it was later in the day, I'd already be having one. I'm going to be drinking the crap out of this beer until it gets warm.
10. What is that? 10%? Is that 10%?
I think this one was 9.5 is what it says on the label. So we'll go with that.
Okay.
All right.
Good stuff.
Jonathan, what do you rate yours?
I'm going to give this a 3.5. 3.5.
Okay.
3.5.
Sounds like a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
So mine, I'm going to give it a solid 4 also, because it's exactly what I'd kind of expect from a stout. It's got the coffee flavor. It's not too sweet, not too heavy, but it does have the coffee and a little chocolatey. So it's what I would expect. It's not anything that's like over the top, but it's quality. It doesn't under deliver either. So
What's the ABV on that stout?
This one is 7.5, I think. Is what it was.
Okay, I like that range. We don't see that much. You either make a dry Irish stout or an imperial stout, it seems, and not many of those sort of in the middle stouts, which I found myself liking a little bit lately.
Yeah, I mean, you start getting up at a 9-10, and you get a nice buzz, but they don't. Sometimes they don't sit right. They're just a little too sweet. Alcohol kicks in.
You have a beer at that level, you're making a decision.
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Probably with an Uber call at the end for sure. So, all right. Well, let's jump in and kind of talk shop. Just so you know, Nick, a lot of our people, they're kind of across the board. We got salespeople that listen. We've got copywriters. We've got people that are running their own little brands, physical product brands. So it's kind of a wide variety, but entrepreneurs, salespeople, things like that. So we'll just for some context for you. Jonathan, did you have a bio or did you already do that?
Yeah, I got it pulled up right here in front of me. Let's see.
We'll see what the media people sent over.
So again, Nick Purdy, co-founder of Wild Heaven Beers, Georgia's 4th oldest production craft brewery, and presenter of some of the game's most creative and colorful beer branding. That'll be some of what we talk about today. Let's see. Over the brewery's decade-plus operation, the branding of each can has been deliberately eye-catching and tells the story. Sean, you were featuring some of that when you were, zooming through some of those selections. But they were founded back in 2010. Operates 2 Georgia brewery and taproom locations. So, Nick, thanks for coming on, and maybe you could share a little bit about, some of the history of the company and some of your core lineup. I know I've had the emergency drinking beer. I've had a couple of variations of that. I know that's probably a big one for you guys, but maybe you could start by telling, how'd you get into the, how did you get into the business for starters?
So, and by the way, thanks for the invitation. It's very kind of you. By the way, is this like live going out, or are we taping this for later, or is it both?
Both.
This is most of our audience is listens to the audio version, so we just StreamYard forces us to do a kind of a live thing. I mean, it's just pretty much automatic.
So I need to paint pictures with my words.
Yes,
there you go.
There
you go.
Got it. Well, so we started Wild Heaven in 2010. I've known Eric, my partner, since 94. We had mutual friends. He was at the University of Georgia when I went to Auburn University in Alabama. And I would go to see my friends in Athens because the music was better there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As you might have heard.
A whole lot, yeah.
And Eric was in the group of friends that I already knew, and we just got to know each other, a little mutual admiration society. Mid-90s, I'm going over to his house outside of Athens. Our families get to know each other, kids getting born, all that kind of stuff. And he starts brewing beer in his backyard. But Eric doesn't brew like other people. He doesn't get a 5-gallon pot and put it on the stove. He gets a 50-gallon steam-jacketed kettle and hard pipes it into natural gas in his backyard. And so he's essentially built a production brewery before we knew what a nano brewery would ever be called. He built one literally off the edge of his back deck. So you drink most homebrew, and you guys have had some homebrew, I suspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's what it is.
Yep.
It's what it is.
Yep.
But when you drink a homebrew that's been steam jacketed, because when you hot fire a beer from underneath, the cooking isn't right. It's uneven, and you don't get a really nice wort out of that. Mm-hmm. Eric was able to, evenly steam cook, the wort. And so the beers you drink at his house were like, holy shit, what is this? I mean, the first Belgian dark beers I ever had were beers made by this guy who's a tree expert. I mean, like, he's like one of the more foremost horticulturalists in the country. You can go Google Eric Johnson Garden Smart. He's had a gardening show on PBS for 20 plus years. Literally cured cancer in the elm tree, and I'm not joking about that. He's a maniac Renaissance man. So anyway, fast forward to the 2000s, I had helped start an independent pop culture magazine called Paste, Paste, Paste Magazine, which is huge to this day as an internet magazine. And we kind of were like one of the big sort of indie culture brands, like Pitchfork or somebody like that. And during that time period, we got really into craft beer. A great pub here in our neighborhood called the Brick Store Pub. You guys have probably heard of that one here in Atlanta, one of the top rated in the world. Spent a lot of time there. And eventually I said to my partner at Paste, I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think I want to sell beer more than advertising. And I said, I gave him like 3 years notice. I said, I think I'm going to go start a craft brewery. And so I went to Eric and I was just like, hey, I don't know why you haven't started a brewery yet. You're a brilliant, crazy genius, but if you'll do this with me, you think about the liquid, I'll think about the rest of it. And
sure. Wow. And nice.
That's the deal we've got. And I'm not a brewer. I've never brewed a batch of beer in my life. I have a lot of opinions on what a beer should be and whether a beer is good or not. But I'm not a brewer. Don't pretend to be. And so we just got a great partnership.
That's cool. You guys have a good relationship. You each stay in your lane. In terms of what you guys are good at. You're good at I'm sure the promotion and getting the word out. He's good at the making the product. So
that's true.
He's both an artist and a scientist. Like, he's a really good musician. I mean, I actually had a record label once and put out an album by my future business partner. So he's a true left brain, right brain, both.
Wow.
And I tell people that's actually what you want in your brewer, because a right-brained creative brewer will make you something really fun and interesting. A left-brained brewer will be able to replicate that beer and make it again.
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
That's a good point.
Yep. Yeah. So you kind of want both the art and the science. So I feel incredibly blessed to have a brewer partner who is both.
That's great. That's great. So what is, so in terms of, marketing, tell us some of the things that you do. I mean, outside of, packaging, creativity goes in. I mean, there's so many craft breweries that are coming online today. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of them. So I know you guys, you have to stay ahead of the curve in terms of, making sure that your beer stands out. Not only in taste, but also in appearance and just how you label it and market it. So if you would kind of talk about that end, because I find it fascinating. Sean and I, we talk about all the time on the show, one of the first things that we, when we pick out a beer at our local establishment or wherever, it's the first thing that captures our attention is that label.
Yeah.
And curiosity factor.
Yeah. And I will tell you that's evolved a lot in the last few years. You go back to, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. You're thinking more about a brand or a label that might last. I'll pull up. Well, you already saw the emergency drinking beer, which for us this is a once in a lifetime branding win. I mean, this is our flagship. It's still a third of our business. A designer brought this to us and said, hey, I've been trying to find a project to apply this old emergency drinking water can art that the U.S. Army made back in the mid 20th century. And we're like, at first we were like, at the time, and I should have grabbed the bottles, but we were pretty traditional beer branding at the time, 12-ounce bottles, pretty similar look across all of them. And I looked at that art. It came to my email exactly where I'm sitting right now. And I remember opening the email and going, well, that's good. I get it. That's clever, but it doesn't fit for Wild Heaven, unfortunately. It's not for us.
Right.
And about a day later, I was like, that does not matter. This is a once in a lifetime deal.
Yeah.
And so we said yes to this, best decision we ever made. So back then, you're thinking more about long-term brands. What are visual identities that are defensible, trademarkable, haven't been done by anybody, et cetera, et cetera. You really are thinking long-term. And we still do. Like we have year-round brands. This past year, we decided to get into the Pilsner game because that's my favorite style of beer, and I think it's going to grow a lot in craft beer. And on this one, I'm going to get this right, guys. There we go. On this one, we weren't even trying to come up with a name for the beer. It just says Euro Style Pilsner.
Right.
This is my brain is not functioning.
I'll add it.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, you got the 16 ounce there. This is the 12. And this one you can kind of tell kind of evokes a Belgian, European-y kind of vibe to it. Doesn't even have a fanciful name. So at times you're still trying to think long-term, but what's also happened so much in craft beer, and we got lucky by getting to open a second brewery with a smaller brew house, is now we can make something new every week if we want, and we pretty much do. And so now we're in that space of how can we just put a smile on people's faces. And if somebody asks us what business we're in, I don't say beer. I say we're in the happiness business. Our entire job is to make people happy. Yeah. So when you make a fun pun like Zari not Zari.
Yeah.
There we go. You know, people
that's
love
really
it.
good. That's so did you come up with that name?
You know, Josh, our head brewer, got that one. So I told him he got beer name of the year for that one. That was excellent. So we view the sort of like, because you know nowadays our breweries, we're still focused on distribution, getting our beer in grocery stores, package stores, all that, very, very important. But at the same time, you know, especially as laws have progressed here in Georgia, which had some of the most regressive beer laws in the country. Our tap rooms now are very viable, real important businesses. So we put a lot more effort than we did, say, 5-6 years ago into driving interest in coming into our tap rooms. And that's where that Happiest Hour series of new beers every week. So what do? At this point now, we're not so worried about, is this a brand we can roll with forever? It's something to make people happy this week. It'll be around for a few weeks after that. So I had another beer I brought for you guys. This one we did, oh my God.
St. Dolly.
I gotta get St. Dolly. So Jonathan, you're in Tennessee, so you know the great Dolly Parton.
Oh yeah.
And so one of our team members is a big Dolly Parton fan. So last year she came to us and I want to do a beer in honor of her birthday, and we decided to canonize Dolly Parton. And people know my musical background with the Paste magazine stuff and my partner being a musician, so we love doing musical ideas. In fact, the name of the company, Wild Heaven, comes from the old REM song Near Wild Heaven, which is a perfect thing for my partner being from Athens and all that.
Absolutely.
So the Dolly idea was an opportunity to celebrate somebody amazing, to do something that felt of a piece with us, to put a smile on people's faces. So we actually pulled the press release that the Vatican did when they canonized John Paul II, the former Pope. And I sent it to Josh, the editor at Paste Magazine, my good friend. And I said, hey, can you change all the facts in this press release to be about Dolly Parton, but leave the tone and the structure of it exactly the same?
Right.
And he did it.
Awesome.
And then I don't know if you know, I'm not Catholic, but if you're Catholic, you got to have 2 miracles to become a saint.
Sure.
Well, Dolly Parton has 2 miracles. The first miracle is that she wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You on the same day.
Wow.
Oh, wow. I did not know
mind
that.
blowing.
Yeah.
And the other miracle is she gave like the first $1 million to accelerate the development of the Moderna vaccine. So she's out there saving the world. So we're like, that's Dolly's 2 miracles. She's a saint. And so we canonized her and put this whole marketing deal out.
That's awesome.
And I don't have one to show you, but we hand sequined a bunch of cans. So the first few 4-packs had like a literal hand sequined can in the 4-pack.
Man. That's awesome.
So just goofy stuff like that is these days is how it's really different maybe than a few years ago, where surprise and delight is job one. How do we delight people?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it'd be good with that. You could do a gift pack of that beer. Hold up your glass, Jonathan, with a glass sort of shaped like that, but maybe a little more top heavy. That style glass with the heavier top.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Make a Dolly Parton glass to go with a 4-pack. That'd be a good gift set.
That's perfect. That's perfect. No, I mean that's amazing. So what kind of? I mean, did you get quite a bit of press from something like that? You know.
I mean, you get a lot of attention. That one sold really fast.
Yeah.
People came in to get the sequined cans, for example.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be careful with some trademark stuff. We learned about a few years ago. We did a series of barrel-aged fruited sours that were also named after female musicians. We did one called Emmylou, one called Mavis, and one called Joni, after obviously Emmylou Harris, Mavis Staples, Joni Mitchell. And we wanted to. Each of those women happens to have a fairly well-known haircut silhouette, where if you did like you'd be very recognizable.
Sure.
When we're talking to a trademark guy, he's like, yeah, you got to be careful there. There's a thing called implied endorsement, which is exactly what it sounds like. It makes it look like you have explicit partnership and permission. And we didn't, and weren't really even trying to seek that out. So we took that off. So even this Dolly can, like, what we do to evoke her is there's butterflies and sequins, but there's no like imagery.
Sure.
There's nothing about music. Now, could we reach out to Dolly's people and be like, hey, would you like to be a formal part of this? They would say, well, maybe. How much money will we get? And it's too small of a patch for that to be a viable conversation. But what we are doing and what we've done both years is, and we do this a lot, is there's a donation aspect. So Dolly has a number of charities that she publicly supports. So a portion of the proceeds from that St. Dolly beer are, in fact, going to get given to one of Dolly's favorite charities.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're seeing the cycle of beers and design and everything that goes with it. So when you launch a beer, you've got to think about not just the beer and making the liquid. You got to be thinking about design, how long this thing's going to run. I mean, it seems like it's like everything else in the world. It's a much faster turnover than it was.
Well, it's terribly inefficient. I mean, having to come up with a new beer idea every week is it takes work. I mean, would I rather just have the Emergency Drinking Brew Brewing Company and just make 1 million cases of this a month?
Yeah.
God, I remember Sam Clagione from Dogfish Head years and years ago said that he said, and this is back before, this has probably been around 2004, so a long time ago. Like 2010 or 12. He said, look, if we didn't actively push against it, we would be the 60-minute IPA brewing company. Because he's like, we could just make that, and we don't even make enough, but we make all the other stuff because we want to. Yeah. And if you were just the one beer brewing company and you could make enough of that to make your profits, boy, that'd be easier. It'd be so much easier. So I mean, so it's a both and. Like, it's really important for us to build, long-term brands that are gonna sell 6-packs at Publix and Kroger. Like, we really, really need that. And that's like the foundation, but the opportunity to do all this other fun stuff, you can't pass that up either.
I was gonna say, it's got to be fulfilling for you. I mean, you sound like you're a guy who likes to do a bunch of different stuff anyway, so it probably keeps you entertained, if nothing else, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Can't see you being the one beer guy based on what we've heard so far. So.
No, you're 100% right about that. But just from a raw business perspective, it'd be simpler to not make so many beers.
Yeah.
But
so I read you had 50 releases just in 2021. Is that right? Wow.
It is. Yeah. We did because
one a week.
Partially because it's almost one a week. I mean, that includes everything we did at our main brewery as well, which has a number of seasonals and a few one-offs. But most of those one-offs, coming from the smaller brewery. So there is definitely a thirst for the new in craft beer, and we craft brewers created that. Like we have only ourselves to blame for the fact that last month's IPA is not as interesting as the IPA that came out today. Sure. And I remember going to the Vale in Richmond about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And I look up at the menu, and it's like there's like 12 or 13 beers on draft, 1 stout and 12 IPAs. And I'm just thinking, well, we would never do that, but it's pretty amazing that this is working for them.
Right.
But,
right.
Give me another IPA. Give me another IPA. You guys have heard the phrase, the new. Have you heard this? The new. What's new isn't good enough. I need the new.
Yeah. That seems about right. Yeah. But doesn't that also, there's an upside to that, is that people want to try new things. So
absolutely.
Sure.
So if you can keep up, it just builds that repeat, because one of the hardest things to do is have repeat customers. I mean, getting customers is hard. Repeat customers is also hard. It's probably less hard than brand new first time customers. But that makes the business work, is the repeat customers.
Absolutely. I mean, us putting out a new beer every week is not unlike a good restaurant with a special,
Right.
I have a lot of customers that visit us, every week or two, because they're coming to get whatever the new thing is. And we build our, most tap rooms in the United States, I would imagine, are like ours, where they do, I'm guessing, 2/3 of their business just on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, maybe even more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we use those weekly drops to create the interest to come back out this weekend,
So does every beer every week get its own new can, or is some of it just on tap, or is it all full production?
Most of the time we go ahead and get some cases made. There's occasional ones that we don't. And there's occasional weeks we don't have anything new, but it's rare. It's honestly rare.
Wow. So how far out does that process start? Like, if you're going to release a beer, how far out? If you just came up with an idea today.
Yep. Well, I will say,
take? I'm sure you're getting good at it.
We have. It's a couple months. Because depending on the type of beer, it's going to take different time. Like the Dolly beer is a blonde box, so that's an actual lager. So that's not a 2-week beer. That's a 4 or 5 week beer. We actually, now that we've done so many of these, a lot of them earn, another shot. They're not all one-off. Some of them are like, all right, who gets to get another, another release? And there's some beers that are just so good. The brand is so good. We're like, we got to do that one again. Sure. So for 2022, we did in fact sit down and review 2 years worth of releases and say, all right, what's the calendar for 2022? This is the most planned year we've ever had. Mm-hmm. But it's only really been a couple of years that we've been in this space of really doing this volume of releases. And I think a lot of breweries around the country are in the same boat, where we've created this monster, and now we got to figure out how to sustain it,
Yeah. Well, I got one more question, then we're going to be running short on time here. How do you keep the creativity going? Like, that's something I know a lot of people that want to release new products or new ideas or even new campaigns for the same product.
Yep.
Like, how do you stay creative? How do you keep coming up with new ideas, new art, new all that stuff?
Yeah. On one hand, if you think you've run through all the great ideas, you're just lazy. There's more. But I will say this, though, and this has really been fun. Like, it's not about me and Eric naming everything. We have a great staff team who loves beer just like we do and loves Wild Heaven just like we do. Yeah. And who can name a beer? Anybody in the company can name a beer. And every once in, people ask, well, how do you come up with the names? How long does it take? Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes a beer names itself in 2 seconds and is just done. Other times it takes weeks or months, particularly for the new year-round beers. I'm like, we've got an IPA coming out this spring that's like the biggest release in our whole history, and it took us 9 months to name it. It was a real big process. But, with these one-off beers, sometimes we'll just send a message to the company Slack that says, hey, we got this beer. Here's the idea. Anybody got any fun ideas? And great, which is fun. Like, I want our staff to be engaged in that process. It gives them an opportunity to feel a new level of ownership, to have some pride. Yeah, I named that beer. So that's, we take advantage of the amazing team that we built.
Probably drinking high gravity beer doesn't hurt as well on a Friday night.
Doesn't hurt at all. Doesn't hurt at all.
And I'm sure, do you get many ideas from your customer? Obviously, the Dolly was from a customer, right?
Is that what you said? Was one of our one of our staff.
One of staff.
But no, I can't say that we've gotten many great ideas from customers.
Okay. Lots of ideas.
Probably some ideas.
Very few great ones.
It's interesting. I have to have because I'm always amazed, like, especially college football on Saturday, Twitter, like how much creative power there is out on the internet. Like people are so creative and clever. It's amazing.
Yeah.
If you ever think that like there's no creativity left in the world, just go on Twitter during a football game and see what people say about coaches and everything else.
Sean, behind you is the famous Ted Lasso banner.
Yes.
And I'll bet you if we looked, we could probably find 5 beers that have that art layout with some different word on it.
Yeah. Probably so.
Yep. No doubt.
The very recognizable, like out of kilter, the whole deal.
Yep. Well, I know there's a couple beers here that I've had on the show that are 80s nostalgia type beers. So one's called Sweep the Leg.
Oh yeah.
From Karate Kid.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple others that the nostalgias we've talked about on this show a lot. It's like that really works too.
And people love that, especially our age.
We did a beer called Boys Don't Rye last year with an illustration on it that looked a lot like Robert Smith of The Cure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the little stuff like that, like taking pop culture clues and all that. So
yeah.
All right, well, Jonathan, you got anything else?
No, this has been fun, Nick, and we appreciate you coming on. Where can our listeners find out more about your company, about your brewery? Sean's got the website up.
I think for most people, they really just care about where is our Instagram. And in the same way that our company is named after the REM song Near Wild Heaven, by the way, with the band's blessing, all of our socials are Beer Wild Heaven. So easy to find.
Oh, cool.
And there you can see the Beach Bonfire. That's the beer I'm drinking today, Beach Bonfire.
There it is.
We'll be sure to follow you guys on Instagram. Looks like you got some fun stuff going there.
You also said you were in Publix and Kroger. Where else, are you anywhere else across the country? How far from Georgia?
We're in most of the big chains. Yeah, we're all over Georgia. We're all over Tennessee. Jonathan, you can definitely find us around Knoxville. Although we probably need to get our butts up there and do some sales work.
Yeah, I've seen your emergency beer is pretty. I've seen it pretty widely up here, but and then I think it was the Wise Blood IPA too is one that
that one's been up there a good bit. I love that Pretentious Beer Company up there. Is that place still rocking and rolling? I haven't been in about a year and a half, but I loved it.
Pretentious Beer Company?
Do I not have it right? Isn't that the place with all the glassware downtown?
I haven't been down there. I've been in. You have to go check that out, Jonathan.
Yeah, I have to check it out. You got me there.
Yeah, we've got a couple. We've got quite a few breweries popping up all around Austin.
Yeah,
distilleries and of course wine country out in Hill Country. But yeah, we'd love to. You ought to see if you can get an HEB. I know that's a tough nut to crack, probably, but you're an HEB. They just opened up a whole nother country worth of beer drinkers. With Texas. That's our
big time.
That's our Kroger is HEB. People are super loyal to it.
Yeah, we have not come to Texas. We are in South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. There's a chain we're talking to that has, and I can't reveal the name of it, but they have a lot of locations in our existing footprint, but they're also in Texas. And the deal that they want to do with us would require us to serve those Texas locations. So we may have to figure out a Texas distribution deal at some point, which would be fun for me because I love Texas.
Yeah, it's a great place. We love it. So, well, Nick, it's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Friday evening and
happiest hour.
Happiest hour.
That's right. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks.
See ya. Cheers, man. All right, Sean. Fun stuff, man.
Yeah.
We got another episode coming up here shortly, so I guess we're gonna wrap up. And Sean, I'll see you. I guess probably we'll jump back on about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
At work. To all of our listeners out there, you can find us over at persuasionbythepint.com. Find us on all of your podcast platforms, Stitcher Radio, iHeart, Spotify, you name it. And as always, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.